Hey, Orange Misfit here, celebrating Columbus Day by ranking reviewing these irrelevant and nostalgic Pokemon cards. The introduction and my ranking reps have been completed, so there's nothing left to do but start the list. So here we go, the first of many.
151. Slowpoke. Yup, here's the worst Pokemon card in the original set. Even though I'm not counting the original Ghastly due to its fossil form, I still think Slowpoke is inferior. Slowpoke is a joke. Having absolutely no way to hurt your opponent is never a good strategy. It's like they just decided to try and make the worst Pokemon card possible without going too far in the extreme. Slowpoke's defensive efforts are abysmal. Spacing out is trash, as it only has a 50% chance of success, and only removes one damage counter if successful. Even if it was guaranteed to do so, it would still be bad. Scavenge could have some uses, but there are trainer cards that do this anyway. Under some circumstances of extreme desperation it could be valuable, but even placing Slowpoke as your active card is too much of a mistake to begin with, and the 2 energy cost plus the 1 discard to give up your turn for a real attack is too much of a hindrance. Therefore, Slowpoke is deserving of the absolute bottom of the barrel. 150. Porygon. I'm still wondering what the point of this card is. It can't do damage, so it's pointless on offense, and is far too weak to be the wall it's designed to be, so it's virtually useless. I wonder if they made it so people wouldn't use it, given Porygon's horrendous treatment by its company for its seizure episode. Anyway, Porygon is horrible, nothing more than a gimmick, and an ineffective one at that. Conversion 1 could be mildly spiteful if you're planning ahead for when Porygon gets knocked out, which given its 30 HP will be very soon. Conversion 2 can possibly keep it alive for an extra turn or two, but it's a lousy defense considering anything stronger than 30 still hits for damage, and it can't protect against colorless or status ailments, which is very odd, and that lapse makes Porygon even more ineffective. It also has a retreat cost, meaning maybe it could have been useful if it could switch in, protect itself, mess with the enemy's weakness, then switch back, but there are way too many factors working against Porygon to make that plan successful. Because it has at least some potential to be a wall, it's not the worst card, but it's certainly down at the bottom of the list because there are so many strategies and powerhouses out there that can obliterate with one quick hit. 149. Shelder. Poor Shelder. It runs a gambit it can't survive long enough to implement. Supersonic needs to be successful in order to have the possibility of ever doing damage to your opponent. That is already a huge problem, but for some strange reason, despite the fact that it's in a shell, it has an embarrassingly low HP, so if you don't confuse them on your first turn, you're done. Even if everything goes to plan, you land a Supersonic and they hit themselves, your only option is to hide in your shell, and that attack has a 50% chance of preventing only damage, meaning poison and confusion can still happen and end your short existence. It's too bad Shelter has the basic setup to be a decent annoyance, but with too little HP, offense, and strategy, it's one of the worst Pokemon cards in the original set. 148. Magikarp. Surprisingly, Magikarp isn't the weakest card in the game, which is good, but it's still pretty terrible. It's got a horrible HP, but its attacks could have been much worse. At least Tackle does damage, considering it could have easily been made to require a successful coin toss to do 10. Flail is generally worthless, but at least it costs the same number of energy, and does have the potential to do double. Magikarp is never something you want to lead off with, or even attack with, so as usual, Gyarados is the only thing making including it worthwhile. 147. Voltorb. They sure didn't bother giving a damn when making Voltorb. Compare it to Magnemite, who has the same HP but can do so much more. All Voltorb can do is 10 damage for 1 energy. Was it really too much effort to give it an attack that can paralyze or self-destruct, a move that it is known for? As is, Voltorb is basic trash. We'll see if Electro will improve on it. 146. Bellsprout. This little sprout is not good. Vine Whip is an atrocious attack compared to any other of their grass brethren that have a variety of status inflictors. Call for Family is one of the dumbest attacks in the game. Unless you want more of the same terrible card on your bench, you're going to want to stick with doing your meager 10 damage instead. A minuscule 40 HP seals Bellsprout's fate as a disappointing card, and it only gets slightly better down its line. 145. Goldeen. Goldeen's card is as inspired as its name. It has 40 HP and a 1 energy cost doing 10 damage and nothing else. At least unlike a few of the other cards of this poor caliber like Bellsprout and Voltorb, it doesn't have a retreat cost, but in all realism, Goldeen is a poor joke and can't do anything until it evolves. 144. Tentacool. Water Zubat is a poor choice. Acid is a terrible move and for some reason can't even poison the opponent. Cowardice might come in handy, but most likely rarely, because there are far too many Pokemon that can do 30 damage before your second turn. Having to discard the energy makes it even worse. Overall, it's never or very rarely worth using. Even in the early stages of the game, there are far too many better options to choose from. 143. Dratini. Cards like Dratini always disappointed me in their laziness. So much empty space under its pick should be written creative effects and outcomes from an attack. But nope, just 10 damage. Dratini is disappointing. Its no weakness is good, but unlike others with no weakness, its normal type means it's not super effective against anything either. Its resistance helps subsidize its sad 40 HP, but with such a weak, ineffective attack, Dratini is best left on the bench while you wait to evolve it. 142. Kabuto. The fossil Pokemon had so much potential for unique defenses and attacks, but instead, we got jokes like Kabuto. With a horrible HP for even a first stage, and a ridiculously embarrassing attack, Kabuto is too weak to last on defense or do anything on offense. Its Pokemon power can possibly allow it to survive an extra turn, but there's still a decent number of grass types that can OKO it. It also stops working if it gets affected by status ailments, meaning even if something like Oddish can knock it out in 2 hits, making it a sad joke for a second stage. Its only potential use is against laughably weak Pokemon that can only do 10 damage with no effect, like Voltorb or Kabuto.
Well, there you have it. The first one is done. Hopefully you weren't too surprised at poor Slowpoke being labeled the absolute worst. Anyway, I'm going to try to have these videos out as quickly as possible. The next update should be released by the end of the week. See you then.